first I would invite our panelists to join us virtually on this virtual stage. Our colleagues who should be able to answer the questions as much as possible. Can you open your camera and microphone? And let's see, where are you? Oh, there you are. So I already see Anne Vermalen from the financial sector in SINEA. Then we have Fabio Leone from the circular economy and quality of life sector in the life environment unit. Cesar Sioanes, who is program coordination manager, if I remember well, also in the life environment unit. I think we are waiting for a few other colleagues. Maybe they didn't expect Bernd to finish so early. Or maybe I see that already we can start actually, because the first questions were rather general. Maybe you can already take some of them. All right, and yeah, Bernd, you stay with us. Great, that's good news. So let's take the questions from Slido. Can I ask the back office to show the questions? There they are. So the first question is, could you please confirm that there is a 30% budget limit for infrastructure investments within a project? It was mentioned in a live info webinar, but I could not find this info written in the official call document. I think, Fabio, maybe you can answer?
Yes, I can contribute, and others can follow up. As far as I know, there is no 30% budget limit for infrastructure. This was actually from the previous life program, 2014-2020. However, as always, this type of cost must be reasonable. You know, the projects, we are not an infrastructure program funding large infrastructure. So we have to keep this in mind. It should be reasonable, because then a large type of this cost will be assessed also for the value for money, for the European added value, and so on and so on. So yes, eligibility, no limitation, but it should be fit well in the context of the project.
Thank you, Fabio. So yeah, can I see the next question, please? Is there a restriction for the number of calls under which one organization can apply, either as a beneficiary or as a coordinator? I think a similar question was asked earlier, but who can take this question?
Yes, in principle, no.
Cesar?
There is no limit for, no such limit.
No limits. Good. This is the right answer. So next question, please. Are costs regarding proposal preparation, for example, from a consultant, eligible? This question might be for Anne Vermalen.
No, because it for the proposal, only costs starting from the start date of the project will be eligible.
Yes, so these costs were incurred before the start of the project. If they were for the preparation of the proposal, so they're not eligible, unfortunately. I would like to remind our participants before we continue that there are many questions, and there is a way to make sure that the questions are answered in priority, which is to like the questions that you find most important. In fact, the more a question receives likes, the more it becomes popular, let's say, and the higher it will be in the list of questions. Therefore, we will answer in priority, because we're not sure that we can answer all the questions, unfortunately. But remember that there is also a functional mailbox that you can use, which is called SINEA-life-inquiries@ec.europa.eu, where you can post all your questions, and we will be happy to answer. So now Next question, please. Can you detail what it means that coordination may not be subcontracted? What specific coordination tasks cannot be subcontracted?
I can take it.
Thanks.
Well, I would first of all like to refer to Article 7 of our grant agreement that clearly describes what type of tasks of the coordinator cannot be subcontracted, which is monitoring that the action is implemented properly, being intermediary of communications, which also includes the requesting and reviewing of any documents or information required, and verify that the quality and completeness before passing them to us, to the granting authority, has been checked. And of course, the distribution of payments. These are the main tasks, but there are some further information inside, further details. So I would suggest to consult Article 7.
Great, thanks for the clear answer, Anne.
And maybe just to mention,
yes.
to complement that, to find this information and the model grant agreement and all the reference documents, is very useful to go to the funding and tenders portal in the place where it is guidance and documents, and then you go to reference documents, and then you select the live program, and there you will find both the annotated grant agreement, all the call documents and templates, etc. So yeah, that's a main place for you to look. Yeah.
And maybe if future beneficiaries would not have the capacity in-house to do everything themselves, then the easiest solution would be to contract a natural person, because then it is part of the staff costs and it's part of the staff of the beneficiary itself. So then it's not subcontracting.
But maybe you should specify what you mean by natural person.
It's a natural person. Instead of hiring an employee, you hire like a consultant with a direct contract as a natural person. This means not through a company unless it is the person's company without any other employees. So if he has his own company, but he doesn't employ other people in his company, then it can go through the company of the consultant, but otherwise not. But this is the easiest because then it's considered under the staff costs.
Okay, thank you very much, Anne, very clear. Next question is, if we are a European association based in Brussels with EU scope, is our NCP in Belgium? I suppose it is.
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
I can take this maybe. Well, it depends whether you have a proposal which takes place in Belgium, then I would say clearly yes, that you would address the Belgium NCP. But if you intend to have, let's say, a governance project which is across various countries, maybe not really the right the right stakeholder to involved in this, but you would also have the possibilities to write to our functional mailbox for further guidance and information.
Thank you, Bernd. Now we have a question which is a bit difficult. How many proposals do you receive per call on average? Now I know that Fabio is good with statistics, but maybe he doesn't remember on top of his mind. Can you already tell us?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit difficult to give you the exact numbers. What you can do, you can simply go to the funding and tender portal, to the past call, you search the call 2024 live, and then you go to call updates, and normally there you have the updates of the call with the number of proposals received. So you have an idea of how many proposals has been submitted. So that's the easiest part, because it really depends on the specific call, the number of proposals.
Yes, in fact, I mean, it's a difficult question because there's a lot of data out there, and it's better to go to the website and check.
But maybe just to mention, because finally also I suppose this is related to what are our chances to succeed, I mean, on average or statistically. So, I mean, we are, I think, better placed than Horizon, than most of the Horizon calls. And I mean, depending on the again on the call, but I mean above 10% for sure. So and we receive of the order between 120 to 250 proposals, something of that order, no, more or less, per call. So for example, SAP environment or SAP Klima or SAP nature.
Yes. Thank you. The next question is probably for Anne. How should we reflect the in-kind contribution in the budget table if they are neutral?
Well, if they are not against payment, then you don't have to include them because it will not go in the final budget table in any case.
Okay, thanks. Next question is, are there any live funding instruments or calls that offer 100% financing for applicants who currently have no available budget or co-financing capacity? For example, in the case of a startup. I'm afraid the answer is no, but maybe somebody can develop better than me.
I can maybe add that in case a startup is part of a consortium, that within the consortium, the budget can be redistributed. So if other partners don't meet, for example, the 60% or the 95%, they can still claim it and then redistribute the EU funding that they receive partly to the entities that need more. But this has to be done through the consortium agreement.
Yes.
Maybe to complement also the sub-program that has the highest co-financing is the Live CET, Clean Energy Transition, where they have up to 95%, if I'm not wrong. And then also the PLP call, so for policy priorities, it's 90% the rate of co-financing. While for the others, it's in general 60% and then up to 75% for nature, for the SAP nature.
Yes, there are variable rates from one call to the other, so could be useful information as well. So here we have positive feedback on the presentation. I don't know which presentation, but apparently it was very clear and useful. The question regards personnel costs for Anne, how to include future salaries, legal indexation into the budget of the project.
Well, this will of course also depend on the duration of your project. So you will have to make an estimation yourself based on what is foreseen for the coming years for your country. And if it's a very long duration, then yes, you will have to make an estimation yourself. You can of course include this because it's normal that year by year there is inflation and there can also be promotions and so on. So, but this is up to you to put something inside that is reasonable.
Something to keep in mind when you prepare your budget. The next question would be...
If I may interrupt,
yes,
sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, because regarding to the previous question about the co-financing rates, yeah, I was here also suggested to mention that the clean energy transition and the PLP calls that I mentioned that have the highest rates of 95% and 90% are very specific and targeted calls. So there, the scope of applicants that can be interested in those calls is more reduced. Yeah, but in any case, they are there. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. The next question might be for Anne or for Fabio. Looking through the website and section calls for proposals, I'm not able to find any detailed information about the maximum budget for the live proposals. I would be grateful for an indication you might provide to get this information. The maximum budget.
Okay. Two aspects. I mean, maximum budget, if this is referred to the maximum budget of a proposal, I mean, there is no maximum budget of a proposal. So the proposals can be as big as necessary. Of course, we do receive proposals with a certain range of budget. What I would recommend is to go to the code document in section 3, the budget chapter. There is a table in which gives some indication of the average size of budget of proposals, but doesn't mean that you have to fit in this bracket of magnitude.
Thanks a lot, Fabio. The next question is for Anne. Can you Please explain better the novelty regarding in-kind contributions.
Well, in fact, I also spotted that there was this new label added to this in-kind contribution section. In fact, it's not new. It's new in the slides, but it is not new for live, because in principle, if the in-kind contributions are free of charge, we don't take them into account, not at the income side nor at the cost side. What was included now is the special cases, for example, if the in-kind contributions are against payment, for example, an entity putting a person at the disposal of another entity, and then it is in fact secondment. And this, we already had it in our previous calls as well, and in the previous program as well. So in practice, nothing has changed. I mean, if you pay for a service, or if there is a real cost for the beneficiary, then it should just go into one of the other cost categories. So it is just maybe a wrong mentioning in the slides. I think for the next years, we might just take it out because it's just raising confusion. But it was already taken care of. So there is nothing new.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dan. Then the next question, is there any way to sign timesheets digitally or otherwise without printing everything? I think so.
Yes, normally it's the same, like I think under the old program, we're still working like that, documents can be signed electronically, but then of course with an electronic signature with a date stamp and so on. If you have your own system for the timesheets and you have electronic approvals that comply with the record keeping requirements in the annotated grant agreement, you can check out, it's Article 20, I believe, then of course it's fine to use this.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Competent authorities can be regionally organized, yet projects require usually a national approach. Can national organization be the main proposer in this case? I think there's a bit of confusion there. Who could reply? Maybe Cesar or Fabio?
I mean, this question would be maybe more relevant for the strategic projects call, where indeed the scope is large, so at least at regional scale typically, but also it can be a city scale. But I mean, the answer is no. I mean, don't worry, it doesn't have to be at national scale, but of course that we evaluate in life, one of the main criterion for evaluation, the one that has the largest weight, is impact. Project impact. So in this sense, of course, that the larger the scope that you have and the larger of the environmental quantitative impacts and potential for replication or upscaling after the project ends, the better for you. It will be more competitive, the proposal.
Of course. It depends also on where the relevant authority stands, I suppose. If it's regional, then
yeah, but I mean, no, absolutely no problem to have regional authorities or also local authorities. I mean, depends on the project. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Cesar. Now, if we have a consortium, can one partner request a funding rate of 50% while another partner requests 70% as long as the total funding doesn't exceed 60% of the overall project cost? And
well, I think we already replied to this type of question several times. So indeed, every participant can maximum declare the rate that is foreseen in the grant agreement in the call, and they can then, if they want to request more and others less within the consortium, then they have to arrange this through the consortium agreement, so the distribution can be different.
Yes, thank you. Apparently, that's a point of concern for many people. The next question for D1, so probably this is for Bernd. Financial support to third parties. Can you indicate in the proposal the names of persons who will receive support?
Well, it is the cost category D1. Eva, it's the cost category D1, financial support to third parties. So Well, no, they should not indicate any names. There are a number of items that need to go into the Annex 1 when, and into the proposal that will describe how the financial support to third parties will be composed, the maximum cost, for example, how the award of this grant will be done, the procedures related to it, what activities and what persons, what type of persons are targeted. So these things need to go into the proposal, but not the names of the persons, because of course, as the call documents clearly stipulate, you need to do a call for this. So you cannot have the persons yet, normally, who will be receiving the support.
Okay. Next question is, where can we find the contact of our point of contact in our country? So the national contact point. I think the information is available on the CINEA website and also on the platform where you register for this event. And also don't forget that we offer this service whereby you can actually seek. Sorry, can you hear me? Or I can't.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had a blank screen all of a sudden. Okay, so don't forget that you can also look for your national contact point among the people who are in this event. Because we offer this service of networking, and there you can ask for a one-to-one meeting also with your national contact point. So seek the national contact point in this platform, because you can find a person there. However, if any of my colleagues wants to complete.
I mean, just to say that so you Google live program, and then you go to the live website, and then you just have to scroll down a little bit, and then you have the section projects and results, and there you will see live in European countries. And for example, there, if you click there, you will see the list.
Yes, even easier. Just Google it and you will find it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cesar. Let's use all the tools we have. Next question. Our application was not accepted last year, even though it scored higher than the minimum threshold. It was also a large project, many partners and large budget. Does having a large project work against us since core budget is capped? Who can answer this question? Maybe Fabio?
Yes, I can start. I think the first would say not necessarily this is a problem. Of course, larger project needs to bring more value. So I would recommend, and I guess you have already done so, to go through the assessment. Normally, we give, and the expert gives, quite detailed feedback on the main weaknesses of the project. In your case, it seems that you have got the minimum. I mean, there is no details if you were in a reserve list or you were not even considered for the reserve list. But the best suggestion is, and you have a major advantage compared to others, that you have a feedback already. You know where the project was judged weak, and if you are able to address those elements, you have a high chance to be financed.
Thank you, Fabio. So
Eva, may I add something?
Of course, you can.
Yes, and it's actually explained in the call document that for projects with high funding requested above 5 million, we are very strict with the budget, the way it is set up, and we assess very strictly the value for money. So in case of big projects, you really need to work a lot on your budget. On the detailed budget table, no big lump sums. Everything has to be transparent, justified, reasonable, and so on. So yes, probably your project was weak in the work criterion 4 under financial quality.
That's value for money.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
budget
public
in
money,
general,
so we have
and
to
value
be
for
very
money.
careful. Yes, it's
for big projects
recognize
in particular. Yeah.
Thanks, Anita, for completing. Next question is, how feasible is it for universities to participate in LIFE? How much research can be funded? I think there are quite a lot of universities among LIFE beneficiaries, but maybe the research part is a bit limited. I mean, they can do also other things than research, but who can take this question?
I see no one, but I can quickly answer it. Let's say the research should be not the major focus of the project, because we are not financing main research activities. Of course, in any project working with equipment, processes, you have a minimum of research needed to bring upscale, test, and so on. This obviously possible and required in certain cases. So for the university, they're of course welcome to participate, to support. We have universities supporting industry, companies, or coming with their own proposal. So it's not closed to university. Certainly the conditions compared to pure research programs like Horizon are more attractive rather than LIFE.
Yes, thank you, Fabio. But in fact, yeah, universities can participate as long as the main focus is not research, indeed. Next question would be, when submitting a proposal, we must confirm that we have the mandate to act for all applicants. How to do that? Who can reply? Any volunteer?
Well, I can very briefly. I mean, for the submission of the proposal, of course, we trust you that you have the agreement of the other partners. We will then require those applicants who are successful or were successful in the evaluation and are in the grant agreement preparation phase. And signing the contract will include a so-called declaration of honor you will have to sign, so that we know that you are following you're in agreement with the proposal. And later on you will be required to sign the so-called accession forms.
Thank you, Bernd. Now we have a question on LIFE websites. There are specific frequently asked questions, LIFE 2025 NGO call for proposals, but you say no call for operating runs in 2025. Why? Well, I can answer that. There is a call for NGOs, but it's not an open call. It's a restricted call only for the NGOs that have already signed a framework partnership agreement. But maybe this is confusing in the FAQ. Maybe we will review it in case it looks like there is an open call. We will take care of that. But thanks for pointing that out. Next question is, I'm not deciding which LIFE subprogram is most suitable for my project, so I cannot start an application in the online system yet. Is there a place I can already consult what part C for each subprogram look like? I want to see the KPIs included. So maybe that would guide them to see the KPIs, to choose the topic or the call.
Okay, I can give a brief answer. I think there is no offline type of form, because the form is actually interactive. So depending on what you choose, you get certain questions. But you have to consider that part C is the same for all subprograms. So if you have a standard action project applications, you just need to link to any of the call sub, and the KPI will be the same for all. So there is no, and then I think at least broadly you understand if you are a SAP or you are CET or you are a PLP, and based on that it should be easy. And when you connect, you need to get to the part C, and you only see the type of information you need to input if you tick on the boxes. So it's It's not as simple as producing a PDF with all the tick being open, but maybe somewhere in the portal, I don't know, others can intervene. There could be a PDF that includes all the documents. I'm not aware that this is the case.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question, can you please explain better what is meant by catalytic potential? I think it's similar to a question that Fabio answered before, no?
And it is depending on the specific code, so it's a bit difficult to generalize, but the essence is those projects that have an exceptional, and I think, is it about bonus points? I don't have it anymore.
Doesn't
Catalytic
explicit.
potential, okay.
It's in general, more in general.
In general, is the ability of the solution proposed, process, product, or whatever they are proposing to be replicated across different sectors or different countries, to be upscaled, to which extent the solution can further survive and uptake and multiply also after the project or even during the project.
Okay, thank you, Fabio. Now, regarding personal categories, this is for Anne. A1, A5, in which category do grantees of the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs program fit?
Well, I think we need a bit more information for that one, because first of all, we need to understand what the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs program covers from costs, and how the grantee itself, how his personal costs are covered and if they are covered. So it's difficult to answer this question here. So I would suggest that some additional information is forwarded to our CINEA live inquiries mailbox, and then we can handle this offline, because it's not so easy to answer this like this. So
of course, yes, very specific questions should be asked to the functional mailbox. CINEA-live-inquiries@ec.europa.eu. Thank you. Next question. I'm not sure to understand properly for the subcontracting threshold of 30%. Is this in relation to the overall project, or should it be considered partner by partner? Anne?
Well, the threshold is for the project. So if the subcontracting would go over the threshold, there is a justification to be provided, but it's not partner by partner.
Yes, thank you. Next question. Could you please explain what is considered as transnationality? Who can reply?
I can take it.
Thank you.
I can take it, yeah. Because I mentioned it as one of the bonus points. You have the possibility, the live proposal can be submitted with one member state beneficiaries or even a single beneficiary. So we do not request for, like in certain Horizon Europe programs, that you would have an international or European-wide consortium. But we provide additional 2 points if your proposal is a transnational proposal, meaning that it would involve at least another EU member state or associated country, and you have relevant actions in both the originating, or where the coordinator originates, and the other country you involve in your proposal. So that's what we call transnationality. And then, of course, you can have also transnationality with one or more other EU countries.
Very clear. Thanks, Bernd.
Maybe there, just to add
yes,
two things. I mean, that indeed it's very important, apart from having partners from several countries, also in order to grant the extra points, it's very important that the actions that take place in, let's say, the second country are really essential for the implementation of the project. So it's no use trying to artificially build up a consortium with someone from another country just to try to get those bonus points. And then the other thing is that in general, yeah, indeed, the live calls don't have such a requirement of having partners for several countries. But maybe the exception there is in the LIFE CET is a program in the clean energy transition. There are sometimes such a requirement of having a minimum number of partners from different countries.
Okay, thank you for specifying that. Cesar, now, what is the level of responsibility of monitors? What if cost the monitors said was eligible is afterwards considered non-eligible by the EC?
Yeah, I can take it maybe. I mean, the answer here is that the monitors, they are our first interface with the project, and they can advise, but their opinion is not legally binding. So when there are like, they always advise you. But they cannot, you cannot take their word as the legal one. That's the one that is on us, on CINEA. And when there is some like very complex case or serious doubt, then they always turn to us to consult, so that the information provided to the beneficiaries is the right one.
Yeah, so normally they don't give the wrong information, but in case of doubt, it's better to consult CINEA.
Yes, and I think it's also good to add that sometimes, because I see this myself as well, when we receive questions, we don't get always all the information. We get part of the information, and we often answer based on what we know or what we have in the question. But it might also be that there is underlying information that we are not aware of. If we would have known, the answer could have been different. The same thing is that sometimes we can also say that certain costs are potentially eligible, or they could fit with the eligibility criteria. However, it is only at the end when we do the final payment, or for the SIP and SNAPs, the interim or final payments, that we will check the cost. Of course, we will not check everything, but we could go more in depth in certain costs. And then we can only say that all the eligibility criteria have been fulfilled. And then we will say, okay, this cost is indeed eligible or not, even if potentially it could have fitted. But if it's not, if all the conditions are not fulfilled, then it can still be rejected. So it's always good if you have more complex case that you cannot immediately find in answers from the annotated grant agreement, or frequently asked questions, that you then send just a question to the help desk. If you have your project, and you can send questions to the help desk where the monitors can help you. And then if they don't know, because the question is so complex, then they will send it to us and we will double check.
Yeah, this help desk that Anna has mentioned now, the data, to access such a help desk, it is once you sign your grant agreement, then you will be informed about the process to get access to such a help desk. So yeah, it's not, there is no information about that help desk for already ongoing projects within the call documents.
Thank you for the complimentary answers. Next question is, again for Anne, I'm afraid. Can you please confirm the co-financing forms are not mandatory this year, and that the beneficiaries do not need to sign the relevant partner description files as well?
I will look to Fabio maybe for this one.
I think this was already answered yesterday, but indeed I can confirm there is no requirement for co-financing forms. Let's be clear, of course, the project should come with their co-financing, and they should manage their co-financing. They should agree with the national authorities or other third parties to get co-financed, but we don't require any paper or documents. It's up to them.
I suppose this is good news. Next question. Let's see. What's the difference between exploitation plan, including replication components, business plan, including replication components, and afterlife conservation plan?
There is an FAQ, and if you go to the frequently asked questions document, there is an FAQ explicitly on this. So that would be my main recommendation. Just read it there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What's the difference between Oh, no, sorry, that was the previous one. So are projects that include sport-related activities, promoting active mobility or raising environmental awareness through sports eligible under the LIFE program? Under which subprogram or priority area they would be most relevant? So sports-related activities. I suppose we have to see what is the link to the environment, climate, nature and biodiversity, clean energy transition. I mean, it's maybe not clear, but can anyone take this?
I can add one sentence here. Of course, it's difficult to respond to such a question. I mean, only 3 lines. I mean, would require much more information. But if the ones who ask the questions would consult the call document for climate mitigation and adaptation, in chapter 2, you will have the priority on climate information and governance, or climate governance and information. And there is one priority on the climate pact, raising awareness, incentivizing behavioral change and supporting the activities in the European Climate Pact. And because there is also potential, I mean, an example, reading, promoting sustainable mobility and transport solutions to reduce emissions, enhance climate-friendly urban planning, and working with youth, local communities. So you may find a place there. And if you make the president of the European Commission joining you for your sports running in Brussels, I'm sure you will have chances to get funding for that even.
Thank you, Bernd. Next question, we still have 15 minutes. Is it possible to provide financial support to third parties, such as local NGOs in Moldova, so in third countries, within the standard action projects for nature and biodiversity? Unfortunately, I don't know.
I can answer.
Yes, we still have our colleague on nature and biodiversity, or who can.
The financial support for third parties is eligible.
Thanks, sorry.
Yeah, it's eligible under the SAPs for nature and biodiversity, of course. The applicant should always check whether this financial support to third parties contributes to the project's objective. So it should also tick the boxes. But it is eligible under standard action projects for nature and biodiversity.
Great. Thanks a lot, Anne. Next question. Where do we have to include the indirect costs in the detailed budget form for SAP nature and biodiversity? I don't find a specific line.
I think this is calculated automatically. I think it's automatically 7%.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you fill in the form and it's generated, yeah. So no need.
Easy one. Then, regarding the guidance on implementation and development, last slide. Can you give examples on what would be an over-prescriptive policy objective? I suppose this refers to the guidance from the European Commission on policy-related activities that concern the development of policies and advocacy activities, right? So overly prescriptive activities would be, if I understood correctly, activities that would target specific, very specific policy or a very specific group of persons, for example, MEPs or European Commission staff, or activities that would be too specific would have to be not included in your proposal. In this case, when you are doing when you're planning to do advocacy activities, they have to remain kind of not too prescriptive. You can, of course, include advocacy activities, especially they're relevant for certain calls, but they don't have to detail too much what would be the aim of this advocacy activity in terms of the person you want to talk to, or the specific policy you want to change, or the change you want to achieve rather in this specific policy. I hope I replied. Can I have the next question? How does the cost allocation works for employees? By real costs? How rendicontation has to be done? How we should manage employees' costs, if not by real costs? This is again for Anne.
I'm not sure if I understand the full question, but the costs are calculated in line with the guidance that you can find in the annotated grant agreement. We also have a specific calculation tool that you can find on the website under the Life 21-27 program, where you can calculate the costs. Of course, final costs can only be calculated over the reporting period. So, but you need to keep track, of course, of the number of days that this person's worked, and the daily rate will be calculated only at the end. So if you want to have already an ID, you could also do it based on the estimated budget that you would have, or the estimated staff costs for one person, and then you can have an idea how much in the end it would end up in, and you can try to use the table for that. But the real costs, of course, it are the real costs based on the salary that you have, salary cost that you have in your accounting system at the end of the project, except for SIP and SNAP, where it is after each period, interim period. But for all other projects, it will be at the end of the project. So I would say use this table, and then you can have an idea, and then also based on the number of days that these persons would work.
Maybe there.
Otherwise, what I can say is, if you need more information or explain a little bit more in detail, then you can also send a question to the CINEA, the functional mailbox for the live inquiries. So we can then have a better answer. Let's say it like that.
Maybe just I mean, a tip to find the table. I mean, just go to the live program website, and then you go, there is a section there, manage your project, and there is reporting, and there, where you click there in reporting, you will find the table, the calculation table.
Great, thanks for the practical answer to both. Next question. Can you please list or send us a link to the documents that participants should provide in order to be part of the consortium? I suppose this is all available in the funding and tender portal, right?
Well, for the submission stage, there is no list. I mean, there's nothing required except filling in into part A the consortium members. Of course, you need to have the agreement, and in very, very rare cases, we had this in the past, we got a message from a beneficiary saying we were put into the consortium without our agreement. So, of course, that is to be avoided. And only later, when you were successful and you are in the grant agreement preparation phase, then we will ask you for certain documents to be signed by the consortium members.
You Bernd?
Yeah.
The next question is, are compensatory measures to fishermen to catch loss due to pilot conservation measures eligible costs? Who can reply? Difficult one.
I think yes, but I don't know how exactly this can work. But
I think we only have the cost category on the land purchase with one-off compensations.
Yeah.
That, but then all these criteria should be fulfilled. And other possibility would be maybe the financial support to third parties, but I'm not so sure that this should be used for compensatory measures.
And temporary compensation payments, that's something different.
Yeah, but then it would still fall under the land purchase.
We had an example in the past that farmers were compensated through those compensation measures under land purchase because they planted a less, grass which was crops which were yielding less than the conventional ones.
Yeah, so I would just check the land purchase cost category also in the annotated grant agreement to see that all the conditions can be fulfilled.
Yeah, I suppose it's very specific, so it will depend, but if duly justified, it's a possibility, maybe something to check again. In case of doubts, don't hesitate to send us an email to the functional mailbox. cinea-life-inquiries@ec.europa.eu, especially if you have very specific questions. So the next question is, in regards with close to market projects, are there any rules that apply that are exceptions to other type of projects? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, just to answer, start.
Okay, if you understand, you can answer.
No, not really. If rules means administrative procedures or conditions which are different from other standard action projects, not being close to market, no, there is no such a difference. Of course, the close to market, they have certain built-in requirements in terms of deliverables, like the business plan, exploitation plan, but this is explained in the application form. There will be in the information before the filling form, there is all the information about when applicable also to close to market.
Okay.
And I can answer on the fly on the second, no, there is no 2% rule.
I was going to say this is an easy question. So the 2% rule doesn't apply anymore, right? So thank you for the quick answer. And also Anne is grateful, I think. Next question. What is the funding rate for the financial support to third parties? If a topic allows financial support to third parties, but it's funded at 60%, does that mean that financial support to third parties will also have a funding rate of 60%? Anne?
Yes, well, the total eligible cost is multiplied by the 60% to determine the EU funding. So yes, it's correct that the funding rate is also 60% for the FSTP.
Okay, this person understood the logic. Good. Next question, regarding the frequent errors under financial presentation, last bullet points. Is there a rule of thumb for what constitutes a big cost item, whether in percentage of total or program budget or euro amount would be helpful for prioritizing budgeting connotations and details?
Well, I would say of course, it depends also on the total cost of your project. If we're talking about 1 million or 5 or 6 million, but I would say anything that is as of 10,000 euro for sure, I think it should be further detailed. And then if you would go through or if your project would be awarded, then we will probably ask further questions if needed. But you should just keep in mind that the details that you supply are used to evaluate your proposal. So if you have a description inside that we don't exactly know what it means, and even if the cost is only 5,000 euro, it would also be difficult for us to justify whether it's an eligible cost or not. So it depends a little bit on the description. And then, of course, if this is clear, 10,000 euro would be a good rule of thumb, but it doesn't mean that for lower amounts you cannot put extra justification if you deem it needed.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Next question. Milestones and deliverables should be one for each task of each work package.
So no, there's no such like biunivocal correspondence. I mean, what you have to make sure is that when you are describing the tasks in the work package, afterwards, indeed, that you have to think how will also want to set up a series of milestones and deliverables such that there can be a reasonable tracking of the progress in such work packages and tasks. Maybe as a rule of thumb, I would say, yeah, that at least either or. I mean, for each task to have either one milestone or one deliverable, at least, so that yeah, you can check that indeed it has been done or not done. But then, depending on what's the task, it might require more or less.
Okay, thank you, Cesar. Now, a question on standard action projects. It's a financial question, I think. Should the certificate on financial statement be submitted with the pre-financing report in case the threshold is already reached, or only at final report stage?
Yes, at pre-financing or at midterm stage with the pre-financing, we don't really ask for financial statements. So at that moment, you will also not have to deliver the certificate on financial statement. So only at the moment that you submit a financial statement and use of resources report, which is at the end of your project. For SIP and SNAP, it can already be at interim stage because they don't have pre-financing, but interim payments, and we accept costs at that moment.
Yeah, strategic.
Thank you, Anne. I see that we are running out of time. Do you have time to stay for a couple of more questions, or would you agree to take 2 or 3 more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. But then we really have to wrap up in 5 minutes. Does it make sense to have a partner from another country that has more experience in the topic the project is about, his role being most as a consultant? Who can take this question? Fabio, maybe?
I'm not sure this makes sense, because if you are not experienced in the topic you're submitting the proposal, while you would be the one submitting the proposal. So I'm not sure I understood. Probably it's that like set up like this. It's a bit a weird setup for a project.
I mean, it could be maybe like a partner in a small part of the implementation of the project that has expertise in a certain aspect of the implementation of the project there. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, hopefully this was the meaning, that of course you need a consortia which would be able to perform the task that you foreseen, and then partners that would be able to support you in the different tasks, but not on the main task. It should be.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, who and what is the background of the external evaluators?
I can take this.
Yes, thanks.
Of course, we are not disclosing who are the external evaluators. And in terms of background, we make sure that evaluators have the necessary background to make a fair assessment of the proposals we receive. For this, we have a big pool of experts, and we assign the right experts to those proposals.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bernd. I think we really have to wrap up, unless there is a question that you absolutely want to answer.
There is one that is easy to answer. That is.
Yes, go on, Fabio.
The
next one? Or?
Yeah, the next one, very easy. The Seal of Excellence.
About the Seal of Excellence.
Yeah, applies to standard action project only.
Okay, if you really want, you can answer this.
I already answered, basically. So it applies only to standard action projects.
Okay. Yes, that was quite easy. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists for answering all these questions that sometimes were even quite difficult. And I'm afraid we can't answer all the questions, but I think we answered all the questions that had 3 or more likes. So I suppose for the others that are maybe more interesting for a few people, maybe it's better that you actually post them to the functional mailbox. So I would just like to remind you that the info days are not over. That tomorrow there will be more information sessions. So we will start in the morning at 9 a.m. with the information session on clean energy transition projects, call for proposals on clean energy transition. Then we will have an information session on strategic projects at 11. Then in the afternoon, we will have an information session on policy and legislative priorities, calls for proposals, and an information session on a call for proposal for technical assistance replication projects. So there will be, of course, time for questions and answers also tomorrow. And don't forget to use our service on networking so that you can have one-to-one meetings with other potential applicants, as well as with national contact points to help you with the preparation of your proposal. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot for being with us. Thank you for your attention and for your active participation. And for those who will be there tomorrow, I say goodbye and see you soon.